exchanges have been taking place, the fact that forces are on the move on both sides will certainly put enormous amounts of pressure on the Pakistani fiscal. But will it really break their back? I don't think so, not just yet. The thing is that, however, if the IMF was to stop the loan or to delay it or postpone it under whatever pretext, that can only happen because, look, at the technical level, the loan has more or less been approved, which is why it's gone up to the staff level. Sorry, the director level.
Executive director level.
Now, when all these people sit together, they will have to decide whether they are going to approve the loan or not, and that's by voting. Now, India just has about 3.5% share, so our vote doesn't really count. But if the Americans, for example, were to hold out and not vote in this thing, they have the position to exercise a veto with the 17%, because 15% allows you a veto. So the Americans are in a position to veto this. If the Europeans or the Japs or somebody else gets together with us, we can still veto it, but that will only ultimately, the Europeans and the Japanese and some of these other fellows will only take the lead of the Americans. So I think the American role is going to be critical in whether this tranche goes through or not. Now, if this tranche doesn't go through, then it puts enormous amounts of pressure on Pakistan. Already we've seen that today their stock market crashed by something like 7,000 points, almost 8 or 9% or thereabouts. There will be enormous amounts of pressure coming, because then many of the other loans that the Pakistanis are trying to get will not come their way. Will then the Chinese, who are not giving any new loans to Pakistan, all that the Chinese have been now doing is rolling over the old loans which they've already given. They're not even extending the tenures of their loans. The Pakistanis are requesting them that instead of every year rolling over these loans, why don't you extend them for about 2-3 years? The Chinese have so far not agreed to that. So the Chinese are not giving any new money. The West is not really giving any new money. The Saudis have given whatever they had to give, but there's no real new monies coming in. Where do the Pakistanis go and borrow money? As of now, when they go to commercial banks, they are borrowing money at something like 8.5% on dollar rates, right?
Yeah.
You can do the math yourself. It's unaffordable, but they are borrowing money because they need money, and there are no cheaper loans coming their way. So the economic side is a very critical pressure point on the Pakistanis to knock some sense into their head. Will that impress the generals whose survival is at stake? I don't know. It's difficult to say. But Zaka, I have to say one thing, and please allow me. You know, all compliments to your reporters. They have been at it since morning. Ishan, Ashish, Tejinder, and they've done a stellar job. So I think it is extremely important that while we all are sitting in the comforts of our home, although I'm rather sleepy now, but you know, these young people, your reporters have done a fabulous job. So I think congratulations are in order to all of them.
Thank you, Sushant. Thank you. I'm sure it means a lot to all of them. It means a lot to me as the head of this channel. But thank you very much indeed for those warm compliments. So let me take that thread, that thought with, I think Group Captain Jha is sort of putting his hand up. So Sushant ended by saying that, look, whether or not the loan is sanctioned or not sanctioned may or may not have a bearing on the behavior of the generals. And I think General Iyer was also sort of shaking his head, you know, affirming that, yeah, I don't think it will influence the behavior of the generals. So then what is the calculation? Because if the calculation is just, oh, I need to ensure that, you know, my Gaddi is safe, or the army needs to ensure that their hold on power. Because let's face it, the army's faced a huge amount of pressure, not least from Balochistan, not least from, you know, what's happening on the Afghan-Pakistan border. For whatever it's worth, this whole fight that's been happening between Imran Khan and the army chief, it's very, very deeply personal. And the army chief is not exactly winning that game. So this is his sort of plan B in that sense, to try and show to the Pakistani people that, look, I can still get you guys to rally around the flag. I'm still the savior of the nation, the defender of the Quam, as it were. The point is, if he loses this, then it's pretty much not just end of his job, it's pretty much end of how do I put it? The powers of the army has been. I mean, when the violence happened May 9th a couple of years ago, no one thought the houses of brigadiers would be attacked. No one thought the houses of corps commanders would be attacked.
Corps commander.
But it happened. It happened. It happened in Pakistan. And by the way, today is the 9th of May. So just underlining that. So what do you think he's thinking, and whether or not his decision is going to be influenced by the monies coming or not coming? What's the next step basis that?
Zaka, I'm sorry to trip on the line that you have drawn of the strict turn, the queue. I may be younger than many other panelists here. At 72, with a dozen of medicines playing merry hell with my sensorium. I'm sorry, I was trying to raise the hand. I wanted your permission to leave. It would have been rude if I would have just stopped. But by the way, there are a couple of points that we must understand. Look, if army was so sensible to have considered, go to the intricacies of considering the impacts of the IMF loan, they wouldn't have launched this strike. They know that they will lose, but yet they launched it. One more thing, Zaka, this is not, Pakistan is not like India, the army, navy and air force. They have got a force service, the jihadists. I wouldn't be surprised if in this attack, what has happened tonight, what is happening tonight, if they induct that fourth service into it, maybe, whatever form that they may be. So please, we have to keep that under consideration also. But coming back to your point, look, Pakistan is a rogue state. If it had to decide that what the international implications would be of their acts that they have been indulging into for so many of the decades, they wouldn't have been in the position where they are. Look back just about 2.5, 3 years back. They were under the sanction of the FATF. They were broke almost on the ground. Yet they managed to do everything that they did. So this money, IMF that we have been talking so much, I don't think it is of so much of relevance to the Pakistani armed forces. They are rich enough. The armed forces is rich enough. They don't need money. Even if this war, they don't want to win the war, but they want to make an impact in that what they are making, in my opinion. Look, our professionalism cannot be compared with Pakistan. I know you should never underrate the enemy, but that's a corrupt army. We have to realize that Pakistani armed forces is a corrupt forces. They seldom an air rank or the general rank officer who doesn't have their assets, their flat, their properties somewhere else in the foreign nations. But that is not our concern. Our concern is right now that what they have been doing in here. We all talk from our homes. Your people are there at the periphery. My concern is just one. If one Hut, gets through the air defense system, what damage it make? If one or two or three of the drones, killer drones, if they get through the air defense system, what impact it makes? We are seeing it every day. What is happening in Ukraine or in Russia? Russia has got a very credible air defense system, yet Ukraine, they manage it. So let's be very frank about what is going to happen, where we are going up to, where we are leading to. The people who have been talking onto your panel, especially among those who are from the armed forces, there's a drastic difference in the war planning of today than what we faced in our days, or they would have faced in their days. Tremendous difference. And this day-to-day advancing drone system is something which is changing the entire scenario of the war field. It's totally different today. There were days when Indian Air Force used to mount those surprise attacks. Today they are not. We have just learned that the drones have gone to the Lahore and damaged few of the things there.
Yeah.
So warfield scenario is changing, combat scenario is changing. Pakistan is entirely a different rogue state. It doesn't think of the way that we and you think here in the armed forces. So much of time we have spent on the IMF. I'm sure those generals won't have even given a talk of IMF tomorrow. So let's leave it that.
Okay.
But what is going to happen subsequently? Only it is our own, decision. I think this is the high time that we stop bothering about what US thinks of, what Europe thinks of. We have to fight our war. No one is going to fight here with us. If we leave it half baked, those jihadists, those armed forces are again going to come the way they have. You know, just see we carried out the surgical strike. We carried out Balakot, and what is the result today? Today they are onto us again. We fought 65. The way we fought like a gentleman. What did we get out of it? 71, leaving the Bangladesh, which was separated. What did India get out of it? Look at the Kargil. What we got out of it by not crossing the line of control. Look, these are the things. I think this is the high time that we think of our own soldiers. If one soldier is dying because of the constraint that our government or our armed forces putting onto him in eliminating the enemy, I think we are doing disservice to our own forces. So this is the high time
Okay.
that this is our battle. We have to fight it and we have to win it, and we have to put this enemy which is nagging us, which is bleeding us by thousand cuts. They have taken a decision. Look, they will eat grass. They may not even drink water. They will drink camel's urine. But that doesn't affect us. That is their approach. We must be very forthright in doing something now, decisively, that this particular enemy doesn't get up tomorrow again to mount the same sort of system.
All
I'm
right.
sure we will not be able to eliminate the jihadi system. Israel is trying hard for the last 1.5 years. They have not been able to get rid of that small Hamas in a small stage of the area. So that is not our case. But we must mount some sort of cost onto the Pakistani armed forces, entire Pakistan. That in case if their jihadi network, they make a damage here, they dent us here, they are made to pay the price for it, and very high price. That should be the norm hereafter.
Okay.
Not just that seventh has happened and now again we keep quiet for another 5 years. No, that is not the way.
Okay.
So anyway, I wish the armed forces very best of everything. I wish that none of our soldiers they die of any injury. This is my wish. I wish our air defense system is very very higher. But I also wish that we should mount the offensive. We should put Pak onto the defensive and put them hit them so hard that they are down to the ground.
All right. Group Captain, thank you for that. I know it's getting very late for all of us, another 10, 15 minutes or so. But I want to get a word in from Commodore Singh as well. And you echoed what the Group Captain said a little while earlier, that you believe that this is a window of opportunity for India to go in. I don't want to use phrases lightly, but go in for the kill, in as much as that if this is going to break the pattern that India has been a victim of for the last 30, 40 years, that is, that there is this low-cost warfare that keeps sort of nibbling at you every few years, it keeps sort of gnawing at you every few years, and if India has been trying to break out of this cycle, break out of this pattern, and you have this window of opportunity now, Commodore, you reckon, first of all, why do you think that there is this narrow window of opportunity now which India should take? Because we have seen in the past, we've tried to take precipitative action, we have taken precipitative action, but again, a few years down the line, we are again back to square one.
What basically I want to drive home the point is that the solution to this whole problem lies in that we break Pakistan. Because Pakistan democracy is just an ornamental democracy. It's a cosmetic work. It's like a front office. for the regime, for the deep state, which actually governed Pakistan, is their rogue army, unprofessional army, as Group Captain was mentioning. I'm putting it in my words. They don't listen to anyone. Do you think they listen to their foreign minister, to their prime minister, to their defense minister? I don't think so. They do. Do they control the foreign policy? No. It is known fact that they are the ones who actually chart out or make the foreign policy and take all decisions on diplomacy and foreign matters. These people are just kept there for showing to the world that we're a democratic country, for getting this like 1 billion loan from IMF. Tomorrow, when their foreign minister or their finance minister, the prime minister goes, he will start saying, India didn't give us any proof, they attacked us. They are the first ones who came upon us. They have killed our civilians, although we killed their terrorist infrastructures. There is a wide gap in the perception. Like, for example, that gap even exists among us. Some of us think that Pakistan can be brought to reason. They can be brought to understanding. As we are very intelligent people, wise people, we go by reason, we go by decency, we go by certain ethics. We have got some culture, we have got some sabita. But do they have? Yes, they have one. That is their Islamic jihadi mindset, which you can't change. Their internal engineering is such that they are bent upon jihad. They don't understand anything else. It is in their DNA. It is in their, what you call, zehen, in their conscience, in their system, inner world. They only see Islam being spread out. That is why they had such a Maulana army chief. He doesn't understand anything. Like what has happened to the civilians there in his own country, how sophisticated manner we carried out the strike package that we call the synchronized operation on 7th morning around this time, with all the Rafales and, Mirage 2000 and Mark 30, Sukhoi 30, Mark 1, with the combination of the choice of weapons for pinpoint targeting and the synchronization, how the army came out with that loitering munitions and those smart low-level flying bombs. How in a sophisticated, intelligent, the whole, operation was made up with the early, what they call airborne early warning and control aircrafts. He doesn't know such, nitty-gritties and the sophistication that goes into this system. He knows only one thing: Inko maro, chalo. We will launch drones. What we have got, we will. Now they have, incidentally, to my understanding and to my information, they have already lost about 5 to 6 aircrafts. That is JF-17s and F-16s. There 2 or 3 pilots have already been captured, and they are just not worried about these things. And at the same time, we call them terrorists. You'll be surprised. Their assets, military assets, are waging proxy war against India. They are not considering them that they are terrorists. They are militants in the civilian uniform.
All right.
They are army people.
Okay, Commodore, I'm just going to put a pause there just to bring our viewers up to speed before I toss it over to my colleague Akanksha. So what we've seen over the last 6 hours or so is basically the Pakistanis upping the ante by climbing up one rung of the escalation ladder. India had repeatedly, after Operation Sindoor yesterday as well as today, In both the press conferences by the Foreign Secretary and the two young women officers from the Army and the Air Force, respectively, had repeatedly said that, look, India has no interest in escalating this. The action that was taken through Operation Sindoor, hitting 9 different locations, 21 different strikes, was non-escalatory in nature, not meant to target any military installation, not meant to target any civilian facility. It was simply in retaliation, in response for what happened in Pahalgam. Pakistan chose not to take that out. Pakistan chose not to take that off ramp. Instead, they have climbed the escalation ladder by one rung. What they have done is send out these swarms of drones from Jammu to Jalandhar all the way to Jaisalmer, the entire western front, to try and probe, to poke the air defense systems of India. And what we can report to you tonight is that the air defense systems of India are extremely robust, extremely efficient. They have thwarted and neutralized every single attempt by the enemy to breach the air defense systems. This is the first rung of escalation. India then subsequently has retaliated with its own loitering munitions, which I'm given to understand, at least in a couple of places, has pierced through the air defense system of Pakistan. In Lahore, in Islamabad, and in Rawalpindi, there were loud explosions that were reported. This is the loitering munitions, the suicide drones that India sent, some of which managed to pierce through the air defense systems, and it has caused loud explosions on the ground. What kind of damage it's left there, we don't know. There are no reports from the ground there from any of these places. But this is how things stand tonight. Now, what happens tomorrow, like I said, and like our guests have been elaborating, there are a couple of factors which we need to keep in mind. Pakistan could choose to escalate further because today's escalation clearly has not borne fruit. There is nothing that they can go back to their people and say that, look, we've got this in return for what happened in Bahawalpur and Muridke. They go back with zero success. So either they can choose to escalate further from drones, they can take it to the next level, which could be manned aircraft, it could be projectiles, it could be long-range missiles, it could be anything. That is one option. The mitigating factor against that, if you were to think rationally, would be that there is this massive $1 billion IMF bailout tranche that is hanging in the balance. Now, in the normal course of things, if you're a rational thinking person, a rational thinking system, a rational thinking army, you would say, let's wait for that monies to come. The country is broke, you're literally living on doles, you would wait for that monies to come. But with the Pakistan army, and given the current chief of army staff, who is certainly not someone who thinks rationally, will that be a mitigating factor or will that not be a factor at all? All of those have to be taken into consideration. I'm going to sign off at this point of time, but the coverage continues here on CNN News 18. My colleague Akanksha Surup will take it forward.
All right, here's a very warm welcome to all our viewers who are tuning into our live and rolling coverage on Operation Sindoor. As Zaka was highlighting, there's already been an escalation, and instead of choosing that off-ramp, the choice that Pakistan very much had, it chose not to do so and has escalated by, in fact, attacking military installations of India in Udhampur, even Jammu and Pathankot as well. We are to talk about this escalation. India, in fact, has also delivered a befitting response by not just managing to shoot down all of those missiles and drones that were diverted towards India, but it has in fact gone inside Pakistan's territory and attacked city like Lahore. We've gone inside the heart of Pakistan to attack Lahore. And it was a very well thought out strategy, if I were to put this out for you, because remember, India first attacked and crippled Lahore by attacking their air defense system. And once that happened, India went back again because the retaliation from Pakistan's side was continuing, and we attacked Lahore a second time. So clearly, Islamabad has been taught a lesson today, and as Zaka was also highlighting, Pakistan is going to be weighing in on options that they have. Is this going to lead to a further escalation? And in fact, let me quickly bring in my guests who are joining me live on the broadcast as we speak. Lieutenant General S. Hari Mohan Iyer, former Chief of Staff, Northern Command of the Indian Army, continues to stay with us. Sir, thank you for joining in. I think the big question that everybody who will be tuning into this coverage is going to be, which way does Pakistan want to take this now, given that we've already brought down their F-16, we've gone all the way into Lahore, and I think today India has proven that we have the military prowess that Islamabad doesn't have.
If I was to break down what Pakistan has done till now, when the thing happened in Pahalgam on 22nd of last month, within the next 6 days, Pakistan moved what they call as precautionary forces to all his vulnerable areas. Prime thing, he was telling India that you can't come and capture anything from the line, that you are sitting in your homes. It used to be some of our old doctrines, and Pakistan possibly felt that we are going to follow that doctrine. Having done that, he was expecting India to go for something like maybe a surgical strike or a Malakot, possibly something in the same level of what we did in the last 2 times. And he thought that he will retaliate in the same manner as he did earlier, try and show that our hits were not good enough, and try and convince his own population that what he's been able to achieve is superior to what has been given back to him, exit this whole thing at a level of superiority and keep the Fauj as the main savior of Pakistan. Now, what happened afterwards? The first thing he did not calibrate was that India would go and, put the Indus Water Treaty on a bench. Now, that is something India has never done in the last 60 years, even when we have fought 3 major wars with him. So that was a very major miscalculation as I look at it. And he still has not understood the implications, because the Kharif, which has to be sown very soon, is going to face problems. So that is one thing he's not factored in. He did not factor the kind of diplomatic push that India today enjoys. He thought that possibly China and other countries that he has, a little bit of favor with, they will come to his rescue and, push India down. Actually, they were expecting much more.
When you talk about the diplomatic push, I think it's very important to talk about how India is trying to turn the tide in its favor, and especially conventional allies to Pakistan today are turning their back. I'm going to bring you in on that point. Stay with me, hold on to those thoughts, sir. I also have Anshul, who's joining us live on the broadcast. In fact, he's joining me live from Pathankot as we speak. Anshul, give us a sense of what's happening, because Pathankot, remember, is one of those critical places in India where the army installations have been attacked, and that clearly indicates a direct escalation from Pakistan's end. Having said that, blackout sirens have raided the air. What is ground zero situation?
Well, at this point in time, the entire ground situation is absolutely peaceful. The cheap missiles or the projectiles that were thrown in from the side of Pakistan, all of them were throttled out here in Pathankot as well. And at this point in time, I'll just ask my video journalist Sumit Jaguri to show you around in the visuals over here. We are trying to make sure that we do not switch on the lights even of the camera. So I'm not very sure as to what our viewers might be seeing on their screens right now. But this is the current situation in Pathankot. Absolutely pitch black, absolutely silent. There are absolutely no noises, no noise that can be heard over here at this point in time. So definitely the situation over here has gotten back in control. People who were initially a bit jittery after the manner in which the Pakistan had thrown these cheap projectiles towards our country, now at this point in time, each and every person of Pathankot and in fact across the country now knows that they can sleep peacefully, because our armed forces are vigilant and they have already started taking revenge from Pakistan. So it's just a matter of the next few hours. Once the morning breaks, we could actually get much details as to what kind of losses has Pakistan suffered at this point in time, because the manner in which Pakistan has been peddling propaganda and fake news through social media, through their local conventional media as well. Definitely by tomorrow morning we'll get an exact idea of how much has Pakistan suffered, because the manner in which the Indian armed forces have gone ahead and responded responded to these fake to these fake attacks or these face-saving
The
measures that
manner
were
in
being
which
taken
the
by
Indian armed
Pakistan.
forces have responded, could you give us a sense of how we fortified our entire system? You are there in Pathankot, and if you could just give us a sense of how the Indian armed forces, especially the Indian Air Force, has managed to actually strike down the way we've seen these missiles and drones being diverted towards India.
Well, one thing that should be noted is the kind of calm that was shown by the Indian Defence Forces when we were being attacked by Pakistan at approximately 8:30 p.m. in the evening. At that point in time as well, all the officers, all the messages that we were receiving, each and every person had said that they were expecting these kind of attacks, light attacks from the side of Pakistan, and hence they were absolutely prepared for this. Our entire air defence system that came to the fore, that made sure that each and every projectile, each and every drone that was thrown in from Pakistan, that was thwarted in the air itself. In fact, till now, there has been absolutely no reports of any sort of loss to life or property anywhere anywhere across the borders of Pakistan. So definitely the manner in which the Pakistan army or the Pakistan government might have thought that they will actually go ahead and attack India and give a bigger message across the world. Definitely all of them have been thwarted, and their entire military might has been absolutely been exposed, and the manner in which India has replied
Of course,
back to Pakistan.
we await
something that
more assessment in terms of the damages that have been incurred at our end especially, but many thanks to you, Anshul, for bringing us all those latest inputs. Let me also introduce my guests on that note. I'm joined in by Colonel Rohit Dev, who's a defense expert, Alex Zidan, who's a Republican strategist. Also, in fact, Lieutenant General Hari Mohan Iyer continues to stay with us. Alex, if I could bring you in, we have a very crucial and big statement coming in from the US State Department. Of course, they have very much acknowledged Pakistan's role, especially when it comes to sponsoring terrorism. Many are saying that better late than ever. Is this kind of support from the United States unprecedented? So far, we've never seen Washington take such a clear-cut stance when it comes to condemning Pak-sponsored terrorism.
This is the first page of a new book in American-Indian relations. I think that the statements of support that you're seeing coming from the State Department, coming from the White House, will only intensify in the days and weeks to come if this does continue. The United States and President Trump have obviously called for peace in the region. That's a goal that everyone across our planet should want. However, this administration has a very close relationship with India, and this administration, the Trump administration, is prepared to back India further than any American administration ever before. Let there be no doubt, the United States stands with India. President Trump stands with Prime Minister Modi. And very soon, I think you will see more evidence of that cooperation, especially if a trade deal goes through and security cooperation can be increased between the United States and India, and that could include American-made jets and weaponry.
All right. Colonel Dev, I want to bring you in on the defense cooperation between the two countries, but you know, that kind of defense cooperation is something that even Islamabad and Beijing share, and they have shared with Washington in the past as well.
So no, there's a whole lot of difference. When we say Indo-US relations, we are the only ones who have a 2+2 strategic partnership with the United States of America and also with the Russians. So what I'm trying to imply is that the Americans have made that concession in the geopolitical spectrum to take India as a friend and vice versa. And the period of trust, which is developed over the period of time, especially this decade, has been huge. The Trump administration 1 and Trump administration 2 now are both aligned with the same fervor. Don't forget, Trump was talking about Pakistan being a terrorist state then. Trump was the only person talking about it being Tibet and not China towards the end of his term in Trump 1.0. So I think that kind of a relationship has developed, and trust is the factor which we are looking more and more over the years, but that factor has come up. But China being an ally of Pakistan, I think it's a question mark right now.
Okay.
Because China faces a huge trade war and other kind of, sort of actions by the US against them. They are looking at amicable partners in the economic sense, and they're looking at India as well. Whereas India has got a very cautious eye now towards China. China cannot do the same what it could do maybe 2.5 decades before this. and certainly not the decade which has passed, because the entire geopolitical alignment, how China has drawn US into an unwarranted, unprecedented kind of a biological warfare which has continued for a long time, it's nobody's business. So I think Pakistan is going to get no favors.
All
A.
right.
B. The entire tract of land which China actually, usurped as Pakistan occupied Kashmir and gave parts of it to build the infrastructure and the surface communication to China is also something which China will now double check, because it has faced a lot of resistance within China, within
Yes.
Pakistan
Yes.
itself. So I
Yes.
think we are now moving forward to a realm where Indo-US geopolitical alignment, and you also see the kind of talk emanating from Washington, which is to give that concession for peace and get Russia on the table to make peace. So I personally, it's not my stated opinion of my country or otherwise or any institution I belong to, but India, US, and Russia, if they seek peace, I think the globe will be a better place hunting down the terrorists all across the globe. So I think that is something which now can come to table. Who knew this before
Okay,
the
okay. But
Cold
I
War
want to
era?
bring in Alex on that point. I think you've made a very critical point. But as far as the triumvirate of India, Russia, and the US is concerned, that's something I'm still skeptical about. But perhaps India could rope in both. Alex, how do you weigh in on that very significant point about how China may just, want to maintain distance when it comes to this conflict? Because remember, it is their own officials who've been attacked during the CPEC projects inside Pakistan, so much so that they have their own security personnel deployed to look after their officials at the CPEC projects. Does China have any concrete reasons to back Pakistan at the moment?
Well, let's hope that tonight China is taking a step back and those leaders in Beijing are having second thoughts about backing Pakistan. Look, whenever you've got a situation where the United States is on one side of a conflict, it's a different world. China may very well double down on the other side of that conflict because China and the United States are increasingly at odds. This is what happened in the Ukraine conflict. The war between Ukraine and Russia has largely, at least it was during the Biden administration, became a proxy fight between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party over the fate of Ukraine. I don't want to see the same thing happening here. Let's hope that China is backing away from the table tonight, recognizing that there will be a high price to pay for backing Pakistan in this conflict. And you're absolutely right. China's got a suite of bad options in front of it. It can have its workers, its personnel potentially targeted in areas of Pakistan where there is not security infrastructure to make sure that they're safe, or it can back a government that is pushing this conflict to the limit in Pakistan and potentially face the ramifications of Indian action on Pakistan. We are in a very dangerous situation tonight, but there is reason to have some hope that peace will prevail.
Colonel, when I was talking about the unlikeliness of, say, bringing the US, Russia along with India, because also the way we've seen the United States take that stand in favor of India and condemn that kind of terrorism. On the other hand, we've not seen that kind of time-tested support between New Delhi and Moscow that was there so far. But this time around, we've not really witnessed that kind of support.
So what more support do you want? You're using the best air defense system currently available to us, which
We've
comes from
paid
the
for it.
Russians. No, that's okay. That's okay. We co-developed BrahMos also. So let's not go into the equation of economics. As I know it, and probably it's not stated, Russia has put in the complete support. We deal with the diplomats here as well. So I don't think so. That's the issue in terms of calling, because Russia is not the one who ever calls for de-escalation or escalation of India-Pakistan scenarios. US does. So US is now weighing in, and I quite agree with our friend from US here. What's also happening behind the scenes is that there has been a pressure all along the Indo-Pacific area, and on one hand you have the Indian carrier fleet in the Arabian Sea, and you have substantial forces in the US Indo-Pacific Command, which is currently towards Japanese seas, and that's South China Sea. So I think that's a very, very clear indication. So I'm not drawing any conclusion militarily in terms of support, but I think this entire push, and why Russia comes into equation, is because Russia is somebody who China ought to listen to at a time when it is critical. So these are all backdoor diplomatic, channels, how they work, how they impinge. So you're not heard from China as well. In fact, the Prime Minister of Pakistan was on social media last night, and he was bragging about the support of Turkey, Prime Minister of
Yes.
Turkey.
Yes.
If you go to the Turkish Prime Minister's Twitter handle, there is no support. The last tweet he has made about Pakistan is when he's receiving and sending him off on 23rd of last month, and that's about all. So you just understand the power, and like my friend says, when you have a superpower like US trying to talk sense into somebody, and today Senator Rubio has spoken to
Yes.
the Pakistani Prime Minister. So I think a lot of sense would have been drilled. They've been told about the consequences, because see, what India has done is very beautifully done. Pakistan wanted us to come into a pig's fight and come into a dog fight in terms of the ground operations, which we have not done. It was in their best interest to have a quick war and then go crying to UN, West, and every ally around in the Middle East to try and say that no, we are getting harmed and we need to stop the war. We didn't even start the war. We haven't even started. We have all the options on the table. We have made a target list of what is critical to destroy in the Pakistani arsenal. We initially struck the terror camps. We made clear for the first time to state through our diplomatic channels that we have not hit your military, A, and B, it's non-escalatory in nature. Obviously, Pakistan, given that it has invested in terrorism so hard, and all this boil about Kashmir, in which it has created terrorists and fidains and jihadis who have come across with bulletproof jackets and rifles and destroyed people
Okay.
here on the
Okay.
other side, they are going to bite Pakistan more now.
Since
So
you
that is
mentioned
why.
Marco Rubio, I want to bring in Alex. Alex, in fact, Marco Rubio has been consistently engaging with the administrations both in New Delhi and Islamabad. That's I want to ask you, how much of that appeal for de-escalation is going to land on Islamabad, given that India has made it amply clear that it's not us who escalated it, because remember, the provocation came from their end, especially with that terror attack of 22nd of April. So how much of that is going to register when Marco Rubio says that we condemn this terrorism emanating from Pakistan and we stand by India in its fight against terrorism?
Well, I think the Secretary of State, he's the chief diplomat of the United States. So his number one job is to try and promote peace throughout the world. That's exactly what Secretary Rubio is doing. There are different conversations going on in other sectors of the administration. I think Secretary Rubio is striking exactly the right note. No one wants to see this turn into a regional confrontation. No one wants to turn this into a regional war. I mean, it already is a confrontation, unfortunately, but I think this is a moment where forces from the outside, like the United States, like the State Department, like Secretary Rubio, can step in to both parties and encourage the path of de-escalation. The path of de-escalation is always available. The question is, will a nation like Pakistan decide to take it? Pakistan is the one that contributed through its proxies, through the terrorists that executed that horrific attack. They contributed to the escalation. I think the impetus is on them to de-escalate. We're going to see if they take that path tonight. They may very well decide that because there's been an exchange of fire back and forth on both sides, some blood drawn, unfortunately, on both sides, Pakistan may decide to step back. And I'm sure that Secretary Rubio is telling Pakistan to step back. And perhaps telling that the United States has the back of India if this does go further.
Colonel Rovit, how do you weigh in on the role that the United States is playing? Is this just going to be about verbal engagement, or when the US Secretary of State, in fact, as Alex was saying, is the top diplomat of the United States, when he goes on to say that we stand by India, how much of that is going to now play out, especially on the battleground? So
I will leave the construction of theatrics which we get as analysts, or the media gets when a word is spoken. So Senator Rubio has said something very straight and clear. How you want to draw the conclusion? Now tell me, in a family there is a good kid and a bad kid, right? But both have been kids. One has been a longer kid and a younger kid. How do you deal with that? So obviously to that rogue, you need to talk in a different language, which is happening directly by the United States. But like Alex is saying, any country of that nature of power will always talk about peace, and that sentence will always come that we urge both nations not to escalate this further and get peace. Why peace? Peace is not about India, Pakistan. Peace is because a lot of other activities are happening between India and US as well, which is nothing to do with Pakistan.
Okay.
So who wants to spoil that moment which is nurturing into six different sectors where money infusion and trade is happening, and we are looking at our trade needs to be modified? Who wants Pakistan in the equation? Neither we want Pakistan in the
Right.
equation,
And it's
nor
been
the
happening
US.
for over 4 decades. Why didn't it come to a halt? And why did it have to reach that stage? Stay with me, because they've stay with me. In fact, we're getting in breaking inputs. Let's quickly, in fact, I'm learning that in Baramulla, heavy shelling has started again in various areas of Rajouri is what we are in fact learning right now. Big breaking inputs coming in. Remember, last night also we saw a sudden sort of increase and spike in the artillery fire, and this time again what we can tell you is that heavy shelling has started again in the area of Rajouri. Tejinder brings us those breaking inputs. He's joining me on the phone line. Tejinder, what can you tell us?
Yes, you rightly said initially that in Baramulla also, because Uri is line of control and it falls in Baramulla, heavy firing from the Pakistani side is going on and the Indian army is retaliating effectively. This is in Baramulla, Uri sector is in Baramulla. Now talking about Rajouri, which is in Jammu region, Pakistan army has resorted to unprovoked ceasefire violation in Rajouri. The entire line of control stretch in Rajouri district is the Pakistan is firing in the entire belt, and the Indian army is retaliating effectively. So as we speak, the ceasefire violation is underway in Baramulla, that is in Uri, then in Kupwara, Karna, Keran. These are the places where heavy exchange of firing is going on. In Uri, where one woman has lost her life, 3 others have been injured in Pakistani aggression, this ceasefire violation. In Rajouri, several civilian locations are being targeted by the Pakistan army, but the Indian army is giving a befitting response to Pakistan. So heavy exchange of firing is underway in Baramulla, in Uri, in Rajouri, Poonch, in Keran, Karna sector. So the entire stretch of line of control between India and Pakistan is witnessing heavy exchange of firing from either side. Yes.
Absolutely. And what is it that you're observing on ground zero? Because remember, India has made it amply clear that they're not being targeting any of the civilian infrastructure in Pakistan territory. But we don't see that happening when it comes to Pakistani side, which continues with that artillery fire.
Yes, you rightly said that India has made it amply clear that we will not target any civilian installations, but we will target only those defense installations of Pakistan from where we are being targeted. As far as the ceasefire violation in these areas are concerned, Pakistan is deliberately targeting the civilian population. Yesterday, we reported how 16 innocent civilians, including children, were killed by the Pakistani ceasefire violation in Poonch district alone. There have been several injuries which were reported from Uri, Karna, Keran, Rajouri sector. But today, so far, the ceasefire violation which is underway in the Uri sector, 1 woman has lost her life, 3 others have been injured, and they are being evacuated to the hospital. Because of this heavy shelling, the evacuation is also being hampered. Right now in Rajouri, there is heavy exchange of firing going on in the entire stretch of the line of control in Rajouri district. There was some air activity that was noticed, and we were told that those were Indian fighter planes that were patrolling that area to ensure that no nefarious design of Pakistan, where in Pakistan is trying to push in their projectiles, their drones into Indian territory, so their attempts are foiled. As the ground situation is concerned, in several parts of Baramulla, there is a complete blackout right now. Just some time ago, there were air raid sirens that were also blaring in the entire area. People, there are announcements that are being made asking people not to venture out, keep all the lights in their houses switched off. So there should be no light that should be visible, and people are asked to maintain minimum activity outside, keep their windows, doors closed. So the situation on ground continues to be tense, but right now in the interiors of say Baramulla and other places, there is a relative calm, but on the line of control, heavy exchange of firing using heavy artillery shells from either side is going on. Yes.
We'll have to see how long that calm actually lasts at your end. Stay safe, Tejinder. Thank you for bringing us all those breaking inputs, as Tejinder was highlighting that the